Welcome, curious minds, to The Deep Dive. Today, we're taking you on a journey really to a place that, well, at first glance, it just seems like the definition of tranquility. Picture Itapecerica da Serra. It's a city kind of nestled just outside the big hustle of São Paulo.
Right, just far enough away to feel different.
Exactly. And our sources, they paint this picture of, lush green spaces, really serene views, an atmosphere so calm you just instinctively feel, well, peaceful.
It's that buffer zone, the place people go to escape the urban noise.
It really is. The kind of a place where that city buzz fades out and it's replaced by this quiet hum. And you'd think, looking at it, that nothing really bad, nothing truly jarring could ever happen there.
That's a very common perception, isn't it? Associating the environment with the events.
But as we often find in these deep dives, sometimes the most profound tranquility can actually hide the deepest, most unsettling shadows. It's like a mask. So our mission today is to pull back that mask. We want to take you on a really guided journey through a specific case. A case that didn't just rattle Itapecerica da Serra, it brutally shattered that sense of peace.
Yeah, shattered is the right word.
We've gone through a lot of material here, investigative reports, old local news archives, some psychological analyses, and our own notes, of course. We've tried to pull out the most important nuggets, the key insights about a crime that just left this indelible, chilling mark. And at its heart, this isn't just, another true crime story. It's really an exploration of how something like friendship can turn toxic, how loyalty can just curdle into betrayal.
And secrets. The power of hidden secrets.
Exactly. How a dark secret, hidden meticulously within the closest circles, can just explode out into the open. It's designed, really, to make you question trust, perception, what you think you know.
And what's truly fascinating here, picking up on what you were saying, is that contrast. You nailed it. That human tendency to link a peaceful place with, well, peaceful people, peaceful lives.
Right. If it looks calm, it must be calm.
Precisely. When a community like Itapecerica da Serra projects this image, this idyllic calm, there's this implicit assumption that life there follows suit. But as we're about to see in this deep dive, beneath that surface, a story of really profound human darkness did unfold.
Yeah.
So this isn't just about the crime itself, it's like a case study. It challenges our basic assumptions about who we think we know, especially the people closest to us.
Yeah.
That initial perception, the idyllic image, it can be totally upended by one single horrific event. And it forces everyone, the residents, the police, even us looking in from the outside, to kind of recalibrate their whole understanding of safety, of trust, maybe even human nature itself.
It's a massive shift.
A huge shift. Going from that assumed tranquility to this pervasive unease. That's the critical lens we need to use here.
Okay, let's unpack that evening then. The moment the tranquility was first, well, broken. Picture it. It's a quiet night in Itapecerica da Serra. Sun's gone down, city lights are just starting to flicker on.
That twilight hour?
Yeah, exactly. And that peaceful hush you described, it's settled over everything. If you were walking down one of those tree-lined streets, you'd feel safe, right?
Yeah.
Secure. You'd think, no way could any truly dark secrets hide here.
It feels transparent.
Totally. Like anything sinister would just stick out like a sore thumb against that quiet backdrop.
Yeah.
But, and this is the grim lesson sometimes, it's often in these quiet corners, these places that feel safe and, I don't know, benign. That's where the biggest, most shocking secrets don't just hide, they sort of fester.
Unseen until they erupt.
Until they erupt, exactly.
Yeah.
Often with just devastating consequences. And that, tragically, is precisely what happened on a night that the people of Itapecerica da Serra, well, they're probably never going to forget it. It redefined peace for them. And at the center of this darkness starting to emerge was Ana Luisa. She was just 17. Just stop and think about that age for a second. It's that threshold, isn't it? On the cusp of everything. And Ana Luisa, by all accounts, was full of dreams. Brimming with plans. Her whole life was stretching out ahead of her like this open road.
All the possibilities.
All of them. High school graduation coming up, thinking about college, maybe a career, relationships starting, adventures, that whole rich tapestry of what comes next.
Yeah.
But then just suddenly, abruptly, and with this horrifying finality, that tapestry was just ripped apart. Her death wasn't like a tragic accident, the kind that devastates a family, but maybe still has that bitter comfort of being just cruel fate.
Right, not random chance.
And it wasn't an illness either, that slow fading that, however heartbreaking, sometimes allows for goodbyes, for some kind of closure. No. Our sources are crystal clear on this. This was something far more sinister.
Intentional.
Intentional, brutal violence. Utterly unexpected, and perpetrated in a place where Those kinds of acts just seemed impossible, didn't fit the picture.
It violates the entire sense of place.
Completely.
Yeah.
And the immediate impact of her death, it was like a shockwave. It went far beyond just her family and close friends.
It hit the whole community.
It absolutely rattled the entire city to its core. That feeling of tranquility, that belief that nothing bad happens here, it wasn't just shaken, it was fundamentally shattered, gone.
Yeah.
But maybe even more deeply, this crime just irrevocably turned upside down. That idea we all kind of hold on to, that we really know the people closest to us.
That's the really unsettling part, isn't it?
It is. You go through life, you share things, vulnerabilities, just everyday stuff with friends, family, partners, and you inherently believe, you understand their character, their intentions, whether they're capable of good or bad.
If you build trust.
You build trust.
Yeah.
But when something like this happens, it's a brutal act, and it's done by someone from inside that trusted circle, it leaves you and the community, and really all of us, with this chilling question that just hangs there long after the news cycle moves on. How deeply do we ever truly know someone? How much darkness can actually hide behind a normal, friendly, seemingly harmless face?
It's a terrifying thought.
This tragedy forced this painful reevaluation of everything. Every handshake, every smile, every shared joke. Suddenly, people are wondering what depths might be hidden behind the eyes of someone they thought they trusted implicitly.
That point you just made about the psychological impact on a place like that, a peaceful community, it's absolutely critical. When a town like Itapecerica de Serra prides itself on its quietness, its perceived safety, a violent act, especially one rooted in betrayal, it doesn't just hit hard, it strikes right at the core of its identity.
It's more than just the crime itself.
Oh, much more. It's not just about the horrific loss of a young life, which is devastating enough. It's about the profound erosion of the whole community's sense of security. If you connect this to the bigger psychological picture, crimes like this, particularly involving such deep betrayal, they often trigger what psychologists call a sanctuary violation.
A sanctuary violation.
Okay. Yeah. In communities that project that calm image, there's this kind of unspoken psychological contract between residents, an implicit guarantee of a certain baseline of safety and trust.
Right, you expect certain things.
Exactly. And when a crime like Annalise's happens, and especially when it comes from within, it just shatters that foundational trust. It leads to what's known as communal trauma.
Communal trauma, wow.
Our sources describe how the very air in that town, once peaceful, it grew heavy, thick with unanswered questions, and crucially with this pervasive, insidious suspicion.
You start looking over your shoulder.
Constantly. It wasn't just about finding some abstract killer. It was about grappling with the chilling possibility that the perpetrator was someone known, someone trusted, maybe even liked.
That's the nightmare scenario.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That shift from the comfort of tranquility to this pervasive unease, this constant gnawing suspicion, it's not just an emotional reaction. It's a critical element that shapes the entire investigation that follows, and frankly, the collective recovery, or maybe the lack of recovery afterwards.
It leaves a scar.
A deep wound. It goes far beyond the immediate victims. It infects the collective sense of security, changes how people interact for years, sometimes generations. That feeling of vulnerability suddenly becomes very real, very personal. It forces this painful reassessment of every interaction, every relationship in town. It's a wound that takes years, sometimes generations, to heal, if it ever fully does.
So, in the immediate aftermath, the police in Itapecerica de Serra are plunged into this high-stakes investigation. But right from the start, it was anything but easy.
No, the sources make that very clear. Immense challenge.
Yeah, imagine trying to solve a puzzle, but not only are key pieces missing, the few pieces you do have seem to point in different directions or contradict each other.
It's like walking in fog.
Exactly. Every step they took felt like probing into this deep mystery, just shrouded in uncertainty and bits and pieces of information. Every discovery, no matter how small it seemed, felt like a surprise. Sometimes it pushed them in a new direction, maybe a hopeful one. Other times, just frustrating dead ends.
Must have been incredibly taxing.
Immensely. It demanded not just skill and persistence from the officers, but real psychological resilience, just to keep going when the odds felt so overwhelming.
And the pressure from the community must have been intense.
Unbelievable pressure. And the questions they were asking right at the beginning were huge and frankly, chilling. Like, who in a place like this could do something like this? What was the motive?
The why is always huge in these cases.
Always. Was it something like envy? That green-eyed monster just eating someone up inside?
Huh.
Or jealousy? That fear of loss twisting someone's mind,
Or something darker still.
or something even more disturbing,
Yeah.
right? Something really aberrant, something that lives in the darkest corners of the human mind, a motive so twisted it almost doesn't make sense. Pure malice.
When there are no immediate answers, it's terrifying.
The lack of immediate answers, no obvious trail. It just deepened that sense of dread and urgency for the investigators. They were staring into this abyss, and they knew they had to find the source of that darkness before it spread further.
And when a crime seems as inexplicable as Ana Luisa's did initially, no clear suspect, no obvious motive, not much immediate physical evidence, it really does raise that fundamental question for the police. Where do you even start?
Right, what's step one?
Well, as our sources detail, that initial phase for law enforcement in these situations, it's kind of like working backward from a blank slate. They immediately set up what's called a victimology profile.
Right, tell us about that.
It's a meticulous reconstruction of Ana Luisa's life leading up to the crime. Really detailed. They map out her routine, identify where she usually went, analyze her social circle, who she hung out with, who she confided in. They look at her digital footprint, social media, texts, her most recent interactions.
So building a picture of her world.
Exactly. It's like reverse engineering her life. And this process is critical when the usual physical clues are scarce or confusing. It helps investigators spot potential conflicts, maybe anomalies in her behavior, or suspicious activities that might otherwise just get missed.
Little things that suddenly seem important.
Precisely. It's not just about finding clues in the traditional sense. It's about constructing her entire world, piece by painstaking piece, to see if there are any subtle ripples, anything out of place that might betray the presence of a threat. Maybe a predator, or even more chillingly, a threat from within her own circle.
So they cast a wide net initially.
Incredibly wide. They interview everyone, no matter how remote their connection might seem at first, because often the smallest detail, a seemingly throwaway comment from someone on the periphery, that can be the crucial thread that unravels the whole thing.
Wow, that sounds exhausting.
It is. It's an arduous, intensely detail-oriented process. It requires immense patience, sharp analytical minds, and just this unwavering commitment to leave no stone unturned. Especially when you're facing this bewildering sea of unknowns and, like you said, that crushing pressure from a traumatized community demanding answers.
And here's where the story of the investigation takes this really dramatic, critical turn. The police have been doing exactly that diligently, sifting through leads, interviewing people, trying to make sense of something senseless.
Grinding work.
Totally. Those early days were marked by frustration, this chilling lack of direction. But then, a pivotal discovery, something that offered the first real signpost, pulling them out of that fog. A major lead emerged from a completely unexpected source. A breakthrough that really shifted the entire dynamic.
Okay, what was it?
Near the crime scene, actually, in a park nearby, a place people jogged, families went there, someone found this crumpled piece of paper. It was tucked under a loose stone, maybe trying to hide it, maybe just discarded. It was rain-smeared, kind of damaged.
Just a piece of paper.
Just a piece of paper. A note, handwritten. And initially, the message seemed cryptic, almost nonsensical to the officers who found it. But our sources confirm, when they looked closer, it contained this highly specific, almost obscure detail about Ana Luisa's private life.
Something personal.
Extremely personal. A detail so particular, so intimate, that only her absolute closest confidants, maybe even just a select few who shared really deep personal moments with her, could possibly have known it.
Wow. So not common knowledge.
Definitely not. This wasn't just some random message left by a passerby.
Yeah.
This felt deliberate, calculated, like a whisper from the shadows, a direct, chilling communication. And it instantly redirected the whole investigation. It narrowed the scope dramatically from this wide-open mystery to a terrifyingly targeted hunt.
That anonymous note, the psychological signature there is just huge. Its significance for the investigation, you really can't overstate it.
Changes everything.
Completely. When evidence like that surfaces, it immediately signals something fundamental to investigators. As the source material really emphasizes, this wasn't just a random act of violence. This was deeply, meticulously personal.
Because a random attacker wouldn't know that detail.
Exactly. A random attacker has no reason, no ability to leave such a specific note. The note implies a connection. It implies a message. It could be a deliberate attempt to manipulate or inform, or maybe even, weirdly, a kind of subconscious confession without actually taking full responsibility.
That's twisted.
It is. In criminology, we sometimes talk about elements like this as an overkill or a signature element. It's not strictly necessary for the crime itself, but it serves some psychological need for the perpetrator. It fulfills some internal compulsion they have beyond just the act. And the fact that this note had that highly specific, obscure detail, it suggests a few possibilities. Maybe it was an attempt to mislead, to point suspicion somewhere else, maybe towards an innocent person who also knew that specific thing.
A red herring.
Could be. Or, perhaps more chillingly, it might have been this subconscious, almost arrogant desire to be recognized. Or caught. Maybe by someone specific who would understand the reference. It's complex.
Yeah.
But that single piece of paper, seemingly small, easily overlooked, it completely transformed the investigation. It turned it from this broad search into a targeted psychological puzzle. It put the focus squarely on Ana Luisa's inner circle.
Right back to the people closest to her.
Exactly. It forced the police to reconsider everyone she knew intimately, because it became suddenly terrifyingly clear. The danger wasn't coming from outside, it was cloaked in familiarity, that kind of pivotal moment where one small detail provides major direction. That's what investigators work tirelessly for.
So as the investigation moves forward, this crucial piece of evidence, the anonymous note, it just relentlessly pushes the focus onto Ana Luisa's personal connections.
It has to.
Armed with that knowledge that this was deeply personal, that the perpetrator was likely in the house, so to speak, the police began this incredibly arduous task of meticulously untangling her entire circle of relationships.
Not easy.
Not easy at all. And what they found wasn't just a simple list of friends and family. It was this increasingly intricate, almost labyrinthine web of interactions, shared histories, unspoken tensions, and often these hidden dynamics playing out beneath the surface. This phase needed enormous patience, enormous discretion.
Delicate work.
Very. The key individuals who became central to this macabre puzzle were exactly who you'd expect in this situation, and tragically, also who you'd least want to suspect.
Her friends, family.
Her friends, her family members, even her boyfriend. These were the people who, on the surface, knew her best, shared her secrets, her dreams, her everyday life. And it's just a horrifying realization for any investigator, any community, really, when that lens of suspicion has to turn inward towards the people you inherently trust.
It undermines everything.
It does. So the police started this painstaking process of piecing together the truth. Our sources describe it almost like assembling a complex mosaic, but from thousands of shattered fragments.
Wow.
Each interview, each piece of testimony, it was like a shard of broken glass. Slowly, meticulously, these fragments started to form a picture. But it was a picture just full of shadows, glaring omissions, and these frustratingly conflicting details.
People protecting themselves. Or others.
It seemed like it. Everyone appeared to have their own version of events, their own loyalties, their own fears, and maybe their own secrets they were desperate to protect. It must have required immense discernment, real psychological insight, just to navigate that emotional minefield, trying to separate genuine grief and confusion from potential deception or deliberate misdirection.
Yeah, the challenges for the police in that phase are just immense, honestly. If you look at it analytically, sifting through layers of secrets, maybe outright lies when you're dealing with a victim's closest relationships, it's incredibly difficult.
Why do people lie in situations like that?
Oh, for a myriad of reasons.
Yeah.
To protect themselves, obviously. To protect others they care about, sometimes just out of fear of being implicated, even if they're innocent. Shame plays a role. Or sometimes, yes, to actively redirect suspicion away from themselves or someone they know is guilty.
So many motives for deception.
Exactly. And our sources show the investigators had to painstakingly piece together these fragmented conversations from dozens of interviews. They had to scour text messages, social media, look for inconsistencies in digital footprints. They had to delve into hidden motives that were never spoken aloud, just hinted at or buried deep.
It sounds like psychological detective work.
It absolutely is. It highlights that profound psychological aspect of detective work. Discerning truth from deception becomes this paramount skill, almost an art form. It's not just about facts and timelines, it's reading between the lines, understanding human behavior under extreme stress, recognizing those subtle tells of evasion, whether it's intentional or not.
That phrase you hear sometimes, looking for the monster in the house, the one hidden in plain sight.
That perfectly encapsulates it. That chilling realization that the culprit might be someone intimately known to the victim, that's arguably the most disturbing scenario for any community, any police force, because it forces this fundamental confrontation with the idea that evil isn't always an external threat, some anonymous danger lurking out there.
It can be right beside you.
It can reside within our most trusted circles, cloaked in familiarity, even affection. And this raises that uncomfortable question for the investigators back then and for us listening now. How do police tell truth from deception when emotions and personal stakes are just sky high?
Yeah.
When a parent is instinctively protecting a child, or a friend is covering for a friend, or a lover is hiding some dark secret, that raw human element makes every interview a psychological battleground. It takes more than just advanced techniques. It requires a deep understanding of human fragility, the ways people construct their realities, even distorted ones, to cope with horrible truths or just to avoid incriminating themselves. It's this painstaking process of peeling back layers, one agonizing layer at a time, hoping you eventually find the core truth underneath it all.
And then, after all that painstaking work, all the complex sifting through contradictory stories, all the immense psychological pressure building day by day on the investigators, on the community, the climax of the investigation finally arrived.
The breakthrough.
The breakthrough. And the truth, when it finally came out, was, as our sources put it, just more shocking than anyone could have imagined. It often seems to be that way, doesn't it?
Sadly, yes. Reality can be stranger and darker than fiction.
Even when you brace yourself for the worst, when you let your mind go to the darkest places, the reality somehow manages to surpass those predictions, especially when the betrayal comes from deep within that circle of trust. There was this unexpected twist, a single revelatory moment that finally pulled back the curtain on this whole horrific drama and revealed the chilling face of the killer.
What was the twist? How did it come out?
Our sources describe it as a moment that sent these fresh ripples of disbelief, horror, and just profound sadness through Oedipus Erica de Serra all over again, echoing that initial shock of Ana Luisa's death and the chilling identity of the perpetrator. It confirmed the darkest suspicions that had started to simmer in the community, those fears whispered in hushed tones. It was someone who had been hiding in the shadows of malicious envy and corrosive jealousy the entire time.
Someone close.
Someone who had been an integral, known part of Ana Luisa's life, maybe even intimately connected to her, meticulously masking their malevolence, their deep resentment behind this outward show of normalcy, of friendship, or maybe even, most tragically, of love.
The ultimate betrayal.
Exactly. This wasn't a stranger, a random act. This was a wolf in sheep's clothing, a viper coiled right there in the garden of trust Ana Luisa had cultivated. And that discovery, it didn't just solve a case. It fundamentally changed how everyone in that town viewed their relationships, their neighbors, their entire world.
The unveiling of the killer, especially when it's someone from the victim's inner circle like that, it really demands a much deeper look at the motives, what was really going on there.
Yeah.
The sources are quite explicit, pointing to the destructive power of envy and jealousy as the main drivers for such a cruel, calculated crime. And this raises that crucial question for all of us. What truly drives someone to commit such an act, particularly against people they're close to, people they share bonds with?
It's hard to comprehend.
It is, and it's important here to maybe distinguish. Envy isn't just wanting what someone else has. It's often far more corrosive than that.
How so?
It's about resenting the other person's happiness, their success, their perceived advantages. And in its most malicious forms, what some might call malicious envy, it actually involves actively wishing for the complete destruction or downfall of the person you envy.
Wow. Not just wanting their car, but wanting them to crash it.
That's a crude way to put it, but yeah, it captures the destructive element.
Right.
It's a step beyond simple coveting. It's a desire to annihilate what you can't attain or what you can't stand seeing flourish in someone else.
Okay, I see.
And jealousy, meanwhile, adds that deep fear of losing something or someone important to another rival. When these emotions, especially that malicious envy, are allowed to just fester, unaddressed, unchecked, they can twist perceptions, they distort reality, and they can escalate from just resentment into this consuming pathological rage that can, as this tragic case shows us, lead to unimaginable violence.
The bit of poison growing inside.
Exactly. And what's truly fascinating and deeply unsettling here is precisely how these dark, destructive secrets were hidden behind that outward appearance of normalcy. This forces us as individuals, as a society, to critically reconsider the facades people put up.
The masks we wear.
The masks we wear. We build our understanding of others based on their words, their actions, their smiles, their public personas. But this case, like so many others, it underscores the terrifying reality that beneath that veneer of everyday life, beneath a polite demeanor or a seemingly loving relationship, there can lie this deep well of malevolence. Fueled by emotions we might think of as mundane envy, jealousy, yet they're powerful enough to destroy lives and shatter communities.
It's sobering.
It's a stark reminder that the human psyche can be a labyrinth, full of hidden passages, dark corners, and that the greatest threats sometimes come from the places we least expect them, from within our own homes, our own circles, our own perceived havens of safety.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what does this all mean for us? For you listening right now, we've taken this profound, pretty unsettling journey, haven't we?
We certainly have.
We started with that image of Itapecerica de Serra, tranquil town, sanctuary of peace, a place you'd think was untouched by real darkness.
The illusion of safety.
Exactly. Then we plunged into the horrifying reality of Ana Luisa's murder, a brutal act that didn't just end a young life, but fundamentally shattered a community's sense of safety, of trust.
Broke that psychological contract.
Right. Then we meticulously followed the investigation's path, from that initial confusion, the questions hanging in the air, to that crucial turning point, the discovery of the anonymous note.
The game changer.
The game changer. That single chilling piece of evidence that signaled this crime was deeply personal, that the perpetrator wasn't some unknown monster, but someone hidden in plain sight among the people Ana Luisa knew. And finally, we witnessed that subsequent agonizing unraveling of trust within her intimate circle, leading to the devastating revelation of betrayal, of hidden darkness coming from within. It's a story that really echoes far beyond that one Brazilian city, doesn't it? It touches on universal truths about human nature.
Absolutely. And if we look at this from a broader, maybe more contemplative perspective, this deep dive really shows us how, even in seemingly peaceful, idyllic places, these complex, destructive human emotions, malicious envy, corrosive jealousy, they can fester, they can grow unchecked, and ultimately they can lead to unimaginable consequences.
It was a warning.
It is. The case of Itapecerica de Serra serves as this stark, chilling reminder of the hidden depths, the often terrifying capacity for darkness within human nature. It compels us to confront that uncomfortable truth. The idea that we truly know the people closest to us, those we trust implicitly. That idea can be irrevocably turned upside down in an instant.
Can't think twice.
It challenges us to look beyond the surface, to consider the layers beneath the smiles, the pleasantries, the seemingly benign interactions we have every day. And this leaves us with an important, maybe lingering question for all of us to consider.
What's that?
What other mysteries, what other unspoken stories might be hidden in plain sight, unfolding right around us? Just beneath the veneer of everyday life, simply waiting for some catalyst, some event to bring them into the stark, unsettling light.
And as our deep dive into this material certainly shows us, mysteries truly are everywhere, often much, much closer than we think.